Recently, we came to see a documentary from the part of Russian Orthodox Church, especially by the Sparse TV, regarding the Malankara Church. We see the first part of that. That was a wonderful documentary regarding the church, and there was a featuring of the Catholic cause of Malankara Church too. So you came to India during the month of February, I think. How was the experience, and what about that documentary, and what you learned about Malankara Church, Malankara Orthodox Church?
In the February, we had movie shoots about the apostle. The movie is dedicated to Apostle Thomas, of course. And from our department, from the side or from our side, we wanted to underline that, of course, we can make a movie about Apostle Thomas, about the Holy Land, about his interaction with Jesus Christ, but and what is after him? Okay, Apostle Thomas, but and then what is most important, and what a lot of people in Russia, in Europe, in Africa, in America, they unfortunately don't know that Apostle Thomas left a huge legacy, heritage after him. And it is, of course, this heritage is, of course, the Christians of India. Because, as you know, unfortunately, India is practically for many people, is associated with the Hinduism. And practically nobody knows that in India there is a traditional, original apostolic church that is living and glorifying Jesus Christ since the first centuries. So it's this church, this Christian church, Malankara Orthodox Syrian Church, is not a result of a mission from abroad. It's not a project of a Western missionary work, but it is the result and the fruit of the apostolic work, Apostle Thomas. And for us, it was very important to underline, we cannot speak about Malankara Orthodox Church without speaking about Apostle Thomas, of course, but we wanted to underline that we cannot speak about Apostle Thomas without saying about speaking about the Malankara Orthodox Syrian Church. For us, it was very important. Of course, it was not my. It was my second time that I visited India. First of all, I visited India in 2020 during the first session of the working group responsible for our bilateral relations. We met, of course, His Holiness Basilius Marthoma Paulus II, who is now with the Lord. I met him a few times personally. It was for us, from those in Russia who met him, it was a very humble person, very spiritual person. I can also speak a lot about him. We don't have many time, but anyway, I wanted to underline that. So if we speak about the movie, this documentary about Apostle Thomas and his Indian legacy, as it's called, it's a documentary movie divided in two parts. First part is more about Apostle Thomas. The second part is more about the Malankara Orthodox Syrian Church. It is the first, as we know, it is the first movie, so huge movie about the Christians of India. And of course, I think not only in Russia for Russian-speaking people, but I think, I searched a little bit on YouTube, on internet. I didn't find such documentaries. This movie, I wanted to underline that it is also a result of our bilateral church relations. it is for us also important to underline that these we have to know each other better. And for the Department for External Church Relations, it was very important for the Russian-speaking people to hear about the Christians of India. When we have visited India for the movies, of course, we saw many churches, many sanctuaries. We had few interviews with metropolitans, with ordinary people, with Hindus, with Christians of different confessions, and for us, especially for the cameraman, it was very important, because I know, but he didn't know. It was very important to hear from the others that there is complete harmony between the religions in India, between confessions, Christian confessions, because sometimes in Western mass media we hear a lot about persecutions of Christians in India, but in the Russian Orthodox Church we always underline that those persecutions, if they are a result of the proselytism work that is made in India. What is concerning the traditional Indian Christians, there are no persecutions, and we saw that by our own eyes, and we wanted to underline it and to introduce it in the movie. Of course, one of the most important part of this movie is the interview with His Holiness Catholicos Basilios Marthoma Matthew III. I had the honor to take an interview of him during about 30-40 minutes, something like that. And it is the first time that I met him personally. And I saw in front of me, of course, the head of the church, the primate, but also a very wise, spiritual, and very, very kind person. During the interview, of course, you know that the Malankara Catholicos, he studied in Leningrad Theological Academy. For us, it is also an important part, because, you know, the most important parts of our life are is the period when you are studying in the universities. And I think that for His Holiness it was the same. He told us a lot about his life, his studies in Russia, in St. Petersburg, when he met His Holiness Patriarch Kirill. At that time, as you know, he was the principal rector of the academy.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit afraid, but still I asked His Holiness at the end of the interview if he can say something in Russia. And he said a few words, sentences in Russian. Of course, as His Holiness noted, if he would come to Russia, in 1-2 days he will have the possibility to remember and to speak more fluently Russian. But as you know, now we are after those shootings, you know, there is a movie. First part is already was showed on the TV. The second part is now prepared and will come out very soon. It is, I think, during this year, it was one of the most important projects that was made in the context of our inter-church relations. As you know, the delegation of the Malankara Orthodox Church also arrived in Russia not so long time ago, headed by His Eminence Metropolitan Abraham Marstefanos, together with Father Ashwin Fernandez from the Ecumenical Department of the Malankara Orthodox Church. They met His Holiness in Kremlin during the service, and after the service they had the the possibility to meet him personally and to speak. And the fact that in our not an easy time, when a lot of our brothers and sisters, they are becoming more and more suspicious, suddenly we saw that our friends from India, our brothers represented by the Malankara Orthodox Syrian Church, the fact that in this period they have arrived by the blessing of His Holiness, they have arrived in Russia as a fraternal visit, official visit. It was also a symbol of our friendship and the support of the Malankara Orthodox Church to the Russian Orthodox Church. At least only by, if we speak only by this visit, this visit showed a lot. And of course, what I wanted also to note is that now the official visit is prepared of the Malankara Catholicos. That will be in September. I hope it's not a spoiler. Now, between the Department for External Church Relations of the Moscow Patriarchate and the Ecumenical Department of the Malankara Orthodox Church, we are preparing this important visit. And as His Holiness the Catholicos has mentioned, he wanted to visit the St. Petersburg Theological Academy, and we are preparing a very high-level program in St. Petersburg, and of course the meeting between the two primates of the Church. And I hope that this visit will be very important, fruitful, and full of joy and happiness between the history of our.
Definitely, that's what I would mention, is that the rector of a seminary or rector of a seminary is the primate, then the rector of the seminary is then the primate of Russian Orthodox Church, and then the student is the primate of the Malankara Orthodox Church. So that makes the bridge of Pan-Orthodoxy, I think. That's where you have mentioned, they can have already mentioned that where the collaboration or the unity between the churches started from the seminary. So that's the important factor, that meeting is going to be one of the wonderful meetings with the teacher and the student. But on the other hand, that's a meeting with the two churches and the primates, I think.
In many cases, when the primates of the churches, no matter which church, they are meeting during the official meeting, sometimes they never met each other before. And they know only through official documents somebody or through official information. But this visit, I think this meeting will be very particular, because they know each other since long time ago. And yes, as you know, also we have two students who are studying in St. Petersburg, one priest and one, as I guess, one deacon, who will also be present during this period. And you know that if we speak about the relations with the Indian church and our church, I would say that everything started from Metropolitan, very active. Of course, it started before, but the active part of our relations started with, of course, the blessed memory Metropolitan Nicodemus Rotov, who established those relations, and together with the great effort and great work of the eternal memory Metropolitan Paulus Margregorius. And so those two persons, in the context of our bilateral relations, we decided during our second session to underline their efforts of Paulus Margregorius, of Metropolitan Nicodemus, of and other people such as Archimandrite Andronik Elpidinsky, who was the first missionary, Russian missionary in India, and who is also venerated, I know, very venerated in your church. And so we want, during our collaboration, to underline their life, underline their efforts, to underline how the inter-church relations work should be done professionally, because they are examples for us as the staff members of the department, but I think for everybody who are making those bridges between the church, because it is very important. You know, those visits I spoke about, the Coptic visits, about the Malankara, about the visit in India. You know, it is very important to make those visits more often, because to know each other not through books, through internet, but through living communication, through sharing experience, sharing events, participating in some events, different events. And so I think now our relations with those two churches, they are not only that. I'm speaking only about now two churches. Of course, I would like to continue after to underline our relations with the Oriental Orthodox world, who is now very active, and our work with the Malankara Orthodox Church is showing that. It's a good example.
So going further in that line, so recently we have seen Department of External Church Relations of Moscow Patriarchate giving emphasis and giving a reboost to the relations with the Oriental Orthodox family of churches. Particularly, we are much happy to see those activities that you are doing with the Ethiopian church. We are mentioning it away from Coptic and Indian church because we are having a great number of viewers from Ethiopia too. So they are really mesmerized with what the Russian church is doing with Ethiopian church too. So in general, as we see the same. What's your thoughts about the same? Like these, as you mentioned, we need more interconnectivity through frequent visits and frequent sharing of the spiritual and cultural heritage of these historical rich places like that of India, Egypt, Ethiopia, or wherever it is, even Armenia too. So, what's your general thoughts about this reboost of relations that's currently seen throughout the world uh, to towards Russian Orthodox Church and the Oriental families? What's your general thoughts about the same, and what do you think? What will be its result in future? Like we are an organization, we work for having a better people-to-people connectivity between both the families. Do you really believe that this will be the people-to-people connectivity and much more much more understanding will be seen in future time between all these families of Orthodox Christianity?